Thank you, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. I don't know if anyone else is suffering from allergies, but I'm definitely feeling it today, so I apologize in advance. Hopefully, I think we checked the mic and everyone can hear me, so we're all good. My Twitter handle is up here. I've been pretty active, but since I'm doing this session, I'm leaving it up to you guys to tweet about the session, so you hold the baton for that. Thank you very much. We're going to talk about building bridges to improve your customer experience, and I'm going to talk about it through the lens of General Motors. Who here knows about General Motors? Okay. Who here knows about it because of our recent crisis? Who here knew about it before that? Okay. So the social media COE that Ali mentioned is our center of expertise, and we set strategy, care, and KPIs for the enterprise of GM globally. So the basic premise is you don't need 5 POVs on Peach for the company because each agency is going to charge you for those POVs. We need 1 POV that can be then customized by brand. Ali talked a little bit about my background. I just want to real quickly talk about our mission. So we want to connect and enable all of the brands and disciplines to effectively operate and help our customers every day with exceptional touch points. Just to go a little bit further into my background, I spent my first part of my career at Ford in public relations, and then I decided I wanted to try non-auto and went to Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati. Well, you could take the girl out of Detroit, but you couldn't take Detroit out of the girl, and I quickly decided I wanted to go back, because for me, PR for toilet paper, paper towel, and cleaning supplies wasn't quite as exciting as PR for automotive. So I had the opportunity to go to Campbell Ewell, which was at the time Chevrolet's agency of record, and stand up all of their social media from the ground up. And from there, I followed a few agencies around, ultimately settling at Weber Shandwick, running their digital team. And then my client at General Motors asked me to come join the team. So in the COE, like I said, we work on strategy, KPIs, and education, and then I also manage the social care team in the US. So if you tweet or post on a forum or Facebook, my team is replying to you. And last year we rolled that out to 25 markets globally, which was huge, and because of that I got to travel all around the world while I was in the middle of the IMC program. So everyone can do it. I did it from China, Singapore, South Korea, Brazil. You just have to be really disciplined. So last year I was fortunate to come to Integrate as part of 621, and one of the things that I asked following it was for the presenters to tell us a little bit about how they fit into the organization, because I think as we're all looking at our career either now or in the future, we really want to see what opportunities people with integrated marketing backgrounds fit in. So this is our structure. Mary is our leader. I work in the Global Connected Customer Experience team. There's an executive director, a director, my senior manager, and then this is me, and then we have regional leads around the world. One of the things that we found that we needed to do from an integrated marketing perspective from the beginning was establish what we call swim lanes. So what's the role of marketing, what's the role of public relations, and what's the role of social care? So when I was at Chevrolet at the agency, we had Tuesday meetings that were called the North American Social Practitioners meetings, and we fought, and not in a bad way, but in a very dynamic, constructive way about who should we be replying to this customer and who should be replying to this brand love. And so ultimately we decided on these swim lanes. Now they vary a bit by country, just based on budgets, staffing, and things like that. But the bottom line is the marketing team owns brand customer targets and lifestyle influencers. They own what the brand looks like. They own the messaging, how we go to market. They own the budgets usually. They own lifestyle outreach and distribution. They own retail, so are we going to do retail initiatives? And then each of our brands have agency support, and that means we have probably 100 agencies globally, so we have to work through those brands to help the agencies. And then from a PR communication perspective, they look at the media, trade, and also they work on industry influencers. And one thing to note is that our communications team actually handles our GM corporate social presence. Everything else is handled by marketing. So if you follow GM on Twitter or Facebook, and Karen Freiberg had the opportunity to join us last summer, which was awesome. That's what they do. They also help with crisis, influencer strategy that's not paid, they work on. And then our executive Twitter strategy, social media training and education. So for example, our social media policy was with our corporate communications team and is now in the process of transitioning to the social COE. And then finally, we have customer care. So if you have a complaint about a product, you have a question about your product, you want to buy a product, then the social care team enables and helps with that process. So what does social media for the enterprise look like, and how did we do it? So we had to establish some core values. We wanted to say the customer is at the center of everything we do, and that's actually a core value for General Motors overall. We wanted to talk about the fact that relationships matter, and we can't have a social presence if we're not going to answer questions and follow up and show some brand love, because that's the expectation and it's the right thing to do for us. And then we wanted to have individual excellence. So as you can imagine, GM is a huge company, and we had pockets of people who understood digital and social PR and marketing, but we weren't always able to get those people together, so we needed to take that individual excellence and apply it to the team. So how did we build the process? I'm going to show a video now, and I have to jump out, so give me 1 second.
We all have a story to tell, a message to spread, a point to get across.
Maybe
if
I'm not.
Our story is relevant and our message connects.
Okay.
With another's interests, then we just might spark a conversation. We may build a bridge, and that's a role for social. Social is conversation that builds bridges. It's dialogue that connects friends, customers, brands, experts, and everyone in between. But it's a complicated world full of new and ever-changing platforms. There are social platforms to foster one-to-many, one-to-few, and even one-to-one connections. You can bet a platform won't be popular among the same crowds or in the same regions. Just look at these 10 platforms with the most active users as of January 2015. 3 of the top 5 are most popular in countries outside of the US, and altogether, they offer 4 different ways to connect. It's no wonder finding how to use the right platforms the right way can be tricky. So how can we have the right impact? How can we stand out from the din of social chatter? We must understand that customers around the world are interacting with brands on social to learn more, express their concerns, share compliments, and sometimes find a helping hand. In fact, 73% of car shoppers in 10 major markets worldwide said that they would be more likely to buy a specific brand if they find positive comments on social media. And 33% of social network users choose to follow auto brands hoping for purchasing advice. In order to meet our customers' needs, we must pair a competitive social program with our paid, owned, and earned digital efforts. But our customers need more than a sales pitch, more than a pathway down the purchase funnel. They're looking for an outlet to express themselves. So we need to listen, be active, and responsive in managing our social conversations. But coordinating that effort is tough if the need is defined differently across the enterprise. We needed a common definition and a common set of principles because our customers aren't concerned with our departmental priorities. To lead in social, we need an integrated enterprise strategy that always champions customers and creates real conversations. In 2013, we established the Social Center of Expertise to bridge the gaps between 3 main functional areas and champion company-wide integration on behalf of the customer. Since then, the GM Social COE has strengthened those bridges, enabling all brands and disciplines to more effectively operate in social, empowering them to make every customer touchpoint accessible great social, and great social connects people. It builds relationships, it sparks dialogue and encourages give and take. It facilitates emotional connections and inspires brand love. Social has the power to turn haters and acquaintances into friends, fans, and advocates. Every day, our teams are turning negative situations into positive ones, creating opportunities with customers where there weren't any, and eliminating real-world business problems across each practice area. Together, we are all building bridges to our customers around the world.
All right. So in the video, it talked about governance, social intelligence, tools, and educations, and those are the foundational things that we needed to build in the Center of Expertise, and we needed to bring the enterprise along with us. So I'm going to go through each of those now. So in governance, we had to have vision, strategy, and we had to have orchestration. So as you can imagine, we have brands, we have regions, we have markets, and we have functions. So we have to coordinate on all of those levels. So what we established was Center of Expertise meetings. We have one monthly meeting for all of our COE members, and then the alternate week we break it up by region. So for us, that means South America, North America, GM International Operations, which is mainly Asia Pacific markets, and GM Europe. So we coordinate those meetings to cover everything that's happening in each of those markets and what they might need from a COE perspective. And then we also find the right people in each area to facilitate those conversations. So just like I represent the COE for North America, there's a COE person in Canada, Mexico, South America, GMI, and GM Europe. And those are the people that understand the business the best and can bring forward the best ideas and help navigate the waters. So from a governance perspective, I talked to you guys a little bit about we don't need 15 POVs. We also don't need 100 new channels. And that's what a lot of our teams want to do. So we have a governance process where if you want to open a new channel, you fill out a new channel request form. I know it sounds a little heavy-handed, but we have a lot of channels that were started and then abandoned, and no one has the credentials for them. We have to contact Facebook or Twitter or YouTube to get them shut down. For example, when I first started working on Chevrolet, there were 3 YouTube channels. No one knew who started them. No one knew what content was on them. And we actually had expired content with actors and actresses that was breaking the rules. So we have to put governance in place to protect ourselves, our assets, and frankly, our employees. So this form helps us do that. It also helps us ensure that people understand how to measure success. So here's, there were 500 channels when we started this process, and they were disorganized, uncoordinated. People didn't know what channels were happening. We had created channels on top of channels. So we needed to kind of bring some organization to the chaos. It's not quite that beautiful, but I would love for it to be. One of the best examples of this is GM Europe. They had done exactly what I said. They had gone out in disparate measures and efforts and started this channel, and they really hadn't talked about the whole ecosystem. So once the COE was established, they talked about clear guidelines, what are the expectations for the channel, and we're going to consolidate our channels. So they sat down with all of the teams. They went from 130 pages and channels to one global channel and one strategy. So they wanted to do brand building, they wanted quality content, they wanted to grow, and they wanted to be the talk of the town. And so they're executing against this now, and they've had a lot of success with this and a lot calmer, easier navigation of the teams to coordinate one effort. Next, I talked about education. So one of the things that we found is we might have an unhappy customer in India, for example, We had a customer who was posting about their key fob, and they had gone through 3 key fobs, and an executive walked by one of our command center displays and took a picture of it and sent it to the quality team and said, hey, why aren't we helping this customer? It's a key fob. It's one of the least expensive things we make. We can't often replace an entire car, but a key fob we really should be able to replace. And we found out that in India, we didn't have any goodwill measures to replace this key fob. So the team worked with the US on what goodwill measures we have and shared that best practice with the team in India and was able to establish a new goodwill measure so that they could more easily replace the key fob and satisfy the customer. So the COE exists to help filter and share those best practices, not only from education, so we have educational newsletters that go out with articles, things like we share within this group, and then we have webinars that we'll share. We travel and do COE events where we will go through case studies. We try to garner case studies from each market. We've done office hours, which by the way does not translate globally, for the care team so that they could call in with questions and get answers. So the bottom line is we have unhappy customers, they have questions, we have a team in place to help them, and then we want to make everyone happy. But you can't do that alone, especially the size that General Motors in. We have to take the learnings from each of the different markets and help the other markets through it. I know a lot of people think GM is big, and we are, but we also don't have unlimited resources or unlimited money. So we do have to work really hard to do this. And in some markets, social is still being figured out. It's not as advanced as it is in the US, so we work through that as well, trying to find POVs from maybe some US events or activations that we've done to share with the rest of the world. Another thing that we wanted to do was social intelligence. So a little more history on me. When I started school, I wanted to be a chemical engineer. And my husband is an engineer. So when we were first mining all of the social data, one of my dreams was that we would be able to take that data and feed it back into the engineering team. And you can do that if you figure out a great way to listen, because there's a lot of inputs coming into the system. And so in the beginning, it was kind of a one-off. Someone would say something, we would send it to the engineering team, or we would send it to the marketing team and say, hey, this is what's happening. But now we're really trying to hone in with our listening to those key conversations. And then we have a process now in the social care team where we work with our technical assistance center to feed that information back to the engineering team so that they can make modifications to the vehicle. So one of the examples is when we launched our full-size trucks, we had a special team working on listening, and they found that in the forums, so for those of you that aren't auto folks, there are dedicated forums for auto enthusiasts where they just share information. It's pretty crazy and kind of fun if you're ever bored and you want to do something fun. So in the truck forums, they were talking about the fact that the aluminum on the steering wheel was getting too hot, and the venting for our cooled seats was blowing hot air into the rear passengers. And so the team captured that data, went back to engineering on the full-size trucks, and said, hey, what do you guys know about this? Can we look into it? The team confirmed that there were 2 issues. They took the steering wheel out of production immediately, and they rerouted the venting for the seat away from the back seat within 30 days on the line, which for us is remarkable. I mean, to move that quickly is fantastic, and it closed the loop on the information we were seeing from basically a free focus group. A lot of people have asked me, well, why didn't you know? Don't you have test vehicles? Well, we do, but we were testing them in Michigan, and it was winter. So no one was using the cooled seats. This is another example. A customer had bought a new Cadillac, and were assured that it was going to have CarPlay. Anyone familiar with CarPlay? Okay. So there's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, 2 huge features that if you aren't familiar with and you buy a new car soon, you will be familiar with, and they're going to change the way we interact with our phones and our cars. So the customer was assured that his vehicle would have it, and it didn't. So he reached out to us via Twitter, and the team figured out that there was an issue with the vehicle and it needed to be reinstated, and that they needed their SiriusXM subscription updated was another issue. So they got the customer a solution, and when he was done, he tweeted back to us with a huge thanks and getting it back on the road and excellent service. So the care team in this example, as you know, we have dealers, and that's how you service the vehicle and you buy a vehicle. So my team would take this, figure out what dealer they're working with, call the dealer, set up an appointment, make sure they got to the appointment, make sure that it's fixed from the dealer's side, and then make sure it's fixed from the customer's side. So it's pretty intensive, and not everyone is cooperative in the process, so we have to work really hard to ensure that every step along the way is a good experience for them. So how many of you know about technology and stuff? Okay, since not everyone does, I'm going to play a quick video because I think it sums it up better than I can.
We have from Chevrolet, the regional zone manager, Rick Wilde.
Thanks. At Chevrolet, we have also been proud of the latest and greatest technology in our truck lineup, which is the all-new 2015 Chevy Colorado. It combines class-winning and leading, technology and stuff with.
Okay, so honor blunders happen, but instead of running from it, we turned this one into a magnetic idea to jumpstart the launch of the new Chevy Colorado. Within minutes of broadcast, the Twitter sphere lit up as the moment was quickly claimed by the internet. This was our opportunity. Without waiting, we took hold of the conversation, claiming the hashtag technology and stuff to promote the Colorado's impressive new features and drive traffic to the website. We also changed the brand's advertising, adding the hashtag, and brought the whole schedule forward to capitalize on the opportunity. Over 4 days, almost 24,000 unique conversations claimed hashtag technology and stuff, delivering almost 63 million impressions, engagement 300% above average, and driving page views 7-fold. Purchase interest increased 350% as a result of the campaign. We captured more than 70% of conversations around trucks, and generated more than $5 million in earned exposure, with the brand widely applauded for owning the moment and stuff.
Tell me he got a raise.
He didn't, but he got a lot of reassurances from the home office. He wasn't even supposed to be there. All right. Anyone familiar with Bat Dad? He's at Instagram. Okay. So he posted that he was in the market for a new Suburban. And the team saw it and were like, oh, we have to get Bat Dad into a Suburban. So they went out, worked. It was actually between the marketing team and the PR team to find a vehicle. Marketing has some crazy rules about loaning out vehicles that PR doesn't. So PR was able to facilitate a vehicle for Bat Dad to drive for a few days. He loved it. He vined it. It was 2 million loops of the vine. And then he actually bought it and, came back and told us he bought it. So it was awesome. It was really quick reaction, get him into a vehicle, and it was, free, and he's super influential. So it was really fun. I think the team, I didn't work on this one myself, but the team who did this really enjoyed it. Okay, so the next thing is measurement alignment and consistent KPIs. As you can imagine, with hundreds of agencies, we had hundreds, probably thousands of KPIs that we were looking at. So with our agency, we, over the course of several weeks, did sticky note exercises to walk through all of our KPIs, why we were using them, what actions we were taking from them, and could we live with or without them over time. I was not there, but I heard it was really fun. because of course everyone is very tied to their metrics, and we had invented some metrics, as one always does in this situation. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we aligned on a global standardized scorecard. We started to circulate it with our leadership team and our executives, and now we're able to look at our brands globally by market on one scorecard. We had never been able to do that until this point. It doesn't mean that our brands individually don't have additional measurements. They do, and they probably always will. But these KPIs, and there are only 12 of them, are the ones that we focus in from the social COE. So we did it in relationship to the funnel. So in our not fancy slide version, on the left side is the funnel. But so from an engagement perspective, how big is the community? What is the reach? What is the volume? Share of voice or discussion. From an engagement, what is the engagement? How actively engaged are they? What is our response rate? And what is our response time? So that's the one CARE measurement that goes into the global scorecard. So our customer response time, how quickly do we respond to customers? From an influence sentiment, we're starting with earned. And then brand consideration and purchase intent. Action is average clicks per post, and advocacy is advocacy shares per post and owned. This will change. We've already had teams globally ask for 2 new KPIs, or the revision of KPIs. So these are ongoing discussions, and each time a new channel is added, we have to reevaluate whether these still work for those channels. So for example, right now, Snapchat, huge topic. How do you measure success on Snapchat, and how does it tie into the funnel? Because at the end of the day, we have to sell cars and trucks. So one of the things in North America that we started just over a year and a half ago is marketing support on Twitter. So if someone says, I want to buy a new vehicle, the social care team replies. But they don't just reply and say, hey, I'm happy to help you. They try to go look for some additional information about them. So this one's pretty straightforward, but we've had ones where we'll talk about ball games, your favorite sports. If you've graduated and you tweet, okay, I just graduated, I want to go buy a new vehicle, they're going to try and figure out what your alum is and suggest a color. They really try to dig a little bit deeper. I think some people might consider it stalking. I personally think it's cool because it's a bit more personal. And we've gotten to a few Twitter competitions with other automakers. And usually when we personalize it, we win. So in this case, she bought the vehicle and she tweeted us a picture. So up until the beginning of this year, the only way we knew if this effort was successful was if someone was responding and saying that they bought the vehicle. Personally, I might ask for help, but I don't know that I would tweet that I bought the vehicle. That's just how I am. So we've actually instituted a new process where we're matching the names from Twitter with a database that looks at sales so that we can see if we have more sales and what we should or shouldn't do for this effort. Okay, so the next one is tools. When we started the social COE, there were over 100 tools globally that we were using in the social space. We couldn't pass information between them. We couldn't score the same from market to market. We couldn't do everything in one spot, so we might do one thing, measurement in one tool, we might do engagement in another tool, and we were doing social care in yet another tool. And half of the tools weren't global and couldn't cover all of the languages we need. So we worked with our IT team to figure out, one, what capabilities do we need? Language was huge, engagement, measurement, and social care. And then if in region we had IT support, we use them too, because I think there's a tendency in global companies when your home office is the US to think of things from a US market, and that just doesn't work globally, especially in China. So we decided on a social media marketing support system. It's our foundation tool. The tool that we use is Oracle. It's our baseline tool, and then if we need other tools, we add them on and we make sure that they work together. So we call those additional tools plus-ups, and there's no limit on the amount of plus-ups that we can use. It's just based on what are the needs as far as new platforms, measurement. It could be that we just need something for a short period of time, and so we'll bring those in as we need them. The other part that we needed the tool to do was to help us with applications. So for example, if we wanted to create an app, and I was guilty of this because I was at the agency, we would triple bid the app, and then we would use the app one time, and then even though our contract said we owned the app, we would shelf the app and never use it again. So with this new arrangement, we have basically a library of applications that we can work with the IT department to reuse. So we took the development time down from about 3 months to, I think we stood one up in 30 days this past year. So it's been hugely helpful from a timing perspective and a money perspective and from a privacy perspective, because we also have to protect customers' data, and we weren't collecting all the data we wanted in the apps because of privacy, and now because we're doing it, we can collect more data. All right, so how did we bring it all together? You guys saw, I think, going back to technology and stuff just for 1 second, if that had happened probably a year before it happened, we never would have been able to pull that off. But because we had people who understand social, because we've been on tours explaining what the social COE is, the Chevy leader, Jamie Barber, has great connections. The agency was up watching the ball game and happened to see what was happening. They were able to call a meeting immediately the next morning. Most of them didn't sleep, actually. But they were able to call a meeting the next morning and get all the right people in the room. They were able to pull ahead things that normally take, to roll code on one of our websites can take at least 24 hours, and they were able to pull it ahead. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it just is. So they were able to pull it all ahead. And so I think that's why we show that as part of the COE discussion, is because without all of the infrastructure and the education that's taken place in the company, that kind of opportunity would have slipped through the cracks, and the trust. And I also want to touch on legal. So we work really closely with legal to provide us with guide rails, but not tell us we can't do things, because we have to have the ability to make quick decisions. So the general guideline is if you're not making a claim or you're not putting the company at risk, then you can do what you need to do. And in that case, because it was technology and stuff, there was no claim, there really was no risk, so they were able to move really quickly. But that did not happen overnight. That took a long, long time to build that relationship. So what about Chevy Goes Emoji? Anyone familiar with this campaign? Okay, so we were launching a new vehicle, the Chevy Cruze, and we wanted to try to do something completely different. So the Chevy team worked with FH, which was the social agency, to create a press release completely in emojis. I just think it's really cool because it's different, and a lot of times we don't get to be different, and this was very different. So they earned 258 million potential social impressions, 21.7 million video views, because they also did a little sneak video preview of the emoji. And then they earned 5,000 new fans, 99% favorable sentiment, and it was 8 times higher than when we did Best Day Ever, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. But they did like quizzes, so this is the release here, but then they would ask questions on Twitter using emojis, and they wanted people to decode it and come back and try and answer what they were saying, which was really fun, and it definitely drove engagement, and I think it changed brand perceptions for us from being kind of old and maybe stodgy to a little bit younger and more hip, which is great. So this is the video, then they revealed the car, then they showed the inside, and then we had, the emoji pillow from fans. So the fans actually started to get into it as well. Okay, what about Best Day Ever? Anyone heard of Best Day Ever? Okay, so Best Day Ever was basically April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. A lot of people, it's kind of negative. People play jokes on each other and things like that. So the team decided to try to change the conversation and relabel it Best Day Ever. And they decided to do that by doing surprise and delights. So here you can see Alec Baldwin. He taught a class brought to you by Best Day Ever. Kelly Clarkson performed a concert at the Grove, Best Day Ever. They delivered pizzas. You could tweet. There were people tweeting actually asking, what's my best day ever, or how can I get on the Best Day Ever? So we were in the command center, and I had people calling to find pizza companies in the middle of nowhere, and it was really fun. From an outcome perspective, 1.4 million impressions, or billion impressions, sorry, 4 views. They had 3.5 times the Super Bowl Colorado views. It was the most successful promoted trend by a US automotive company. There were 43% increase in mentions, and then 98% positive sentiment, which was 5 points higher than the Super Bowl in 2015. The last one is Fuel Your Hustle, and I was going to try to find the video for this, but I couldn't find it. So if I can post it later probably, but basically this was just a new initiative for Chevrolet where they use Fuel Your Hustle. And the video talks about, it's really not about the brand, it's more about the grit of working hard, which I think is great for this audience, which is why I wanted to show the video, because I think we're all working really hard and that's why we're here. But and then they followed it up with ideas that inspire us. So what does it mean to fuel your hustle? So it was a little bit user-generated, but it was more a conversation than content. So it resulted in 8.7 earned mentions, 88 million Twitter, 99% positive sentiment, 5 million video views across all of the platforms. That include paid and organic. And then 43% of associated brand terms, and 66 promoted trend impressions. So in this case, it wasn't really about talking about Chevrolet, it was really about talking about Fuel Your Hustle.